All right, welcome. We are going to be looking today at a new EdTech toy um, that I think is awesome, and I've been messing around with it today, trying to see what I can do with it. It's called TikiTaki.com. So here you see, basically this would be a sort of an intermediate tutorial. I've actually already created a page. Super easy though. You log into TikiTaki, give them your email, just like any other piece of tech that you or application or tool. Create a password, and then it's going to bring you to their load-in screen. The only thing that I did differently here is that I uploaded a picture that very famous picture from Vietnam. It's very easy to see how to do that. So rather than bog you down with 10 minutes of me logging in, I'm assuming that you've already gotten a chance to log in, and I'm going to show you a little bit how to sort of maximize the potential of this tool. So first things first, you have two or three sort of options here to toggle. You have your admin, which is like where all your creation is going to come from. You have your settings, which is going to more be a way to show what you've uploaded, specifically spacing and zoom. You can go back and forth with these two. So my suggestions with spacing and zoom, depending on how how far apart, depends on what you're analyzing here. So I've chosen to look at the Vietnam War specifically. Sort of my end game assessment is what elements of the run up to the Vietnam War, the actual conflagration, the aftermath, the way the media has handled it. In what way is that similar or different to what we see in Syria? So this dovetails with another application I'm using to teach this as a ninth grade history teacher. So all the events that I'm looking at really are only about 60 years apart. So this sort of makes sense to have it zoomed in as far as I've had it. You can see this toggles the time periods here to the 70s, right? So you have, I'll show you how to make these in a second, but these are my little entries. And so you go all the way up, and then it ends in 2017 with the attacks in Syria. And then it starts so far with the entrance of Vietnam into its battle with France in the First Indochina War. So that's sort of the the 60-odd years, 70-odd years of time frame. Now, if you were looking at something like I'm trying to think of a random topic like humanism through literature from the Renaissance, right? Now you're talking about hundreds of years. You're talking about multiple centuries. So you'd probably want to space it out a little bit more. But so as you can see, you can kind of, this is what happens when you zoom, and your spacing. If you want to do equal spacing, right? It just depends. You want to play around with this. It just depends on what you're looking at, what you want to show, and how long in history that goes on for. So, it's something to play around with. And you'll notice again this zoom over here, but it's kind of misleading, right? You're talking about, like I said, 70 years of history. Would make it seem like that everything wasn't that far apart. Well, I guess it depends on your perspective, right? If you're, if it's your grandfather looking at this, then it might not seem that far apart. But if it's, a high school student who has no sort of knowledge of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, then, it might be interesting to show them, just how far apart things really are in history. So anyway, okay. So, and then we'll leave this last. This is like the sort of coup de grace. This is the, this is when you really want to dazzle people. We'll hold that for now. So what you do to add, you have your admin tab here. So in the admin tab, you have your, these are the events that I've loaded so far. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So what you want to do is you want to go to create new story. Even from the beginning, when there's nothing populated into your timeline, you're going to go to create a new story. Now, when you go to create a new story, you're going to have to title it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to title it first first spell, French incursion into Southeast Asia. Alright, so basically all you're doing is you are going to upload sort of documents about this. So this is a cool one that I found, History of Today, which is cool because it's got maps, it's got you know literally advertisements for French entrepreneurs to brave the trek. This is from the 30s into Indochina. And it's a cool website because you can navigate all the stuff. It's got different articles in it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and paste this bad boy. Now, the only thing that's not amazing about this is this particular website, and I'll explain why that's not amazing in a second. Is it's going to ask you for a start date and an end date. Now, this one, there is no real exact date that the French became a presence in Indochina, so the best that this gives you is 1860. As we'll see in a second, clearly when you're talking about, especially modern history, for example, like really modern history, Syrian use of chemical weapons evidently on its own people and our response with the Tomahawk missiles, you're going to get dates. You're going to get literally times of the day. But the farther back you go, if you're looking at, something from the Renaissance, you're not going to get, if you're looking at ancient Greek tragedy, you're not going to get like April 3rd, BC 1213, March 3rd. So this website really wants, it's as specific as you want to get. So let's just use that date of, what do we say, 1860. Okay, so the year is 1860. So I'm just going to put 1860. We're going to go back. So I add 1860. And you know what? Let's give it New Year's. What a day. All right, so now I've got date outside the time range. So what it's going to do is this sort of box down here, it's just going to expand it. So I'm going to say yes. Okay. Then that link, the Grand Tour History Today, I've cut and pasted it. It's in my clipboard, and I'm just going to put that link here. And then it asks you to give a little description or however you want to introduce that clip. You can do it yourself, or if they, sorry, I keep going back to that. If they do a better job on their own website, so this is a good one, little piece here. So I'm just going to cut it and paste and put it into our intro and click save. Okay, so now my timeline goes all the way back to 1860 and goes all the way up to last week, 2017. All right, so that's sort of a historical view of just how long this conflagration has been going on for. So let's say you wanted to do something a little bit more topical. You wanted to make an assessment out of this. So what I've done here is I've prepped two save, right? And because I'm going to do another create story, boom, and it's placed that, and it's ready for me to do another story. So I'm going to say viewpoint 1, and I'm going to say that's today. That's 2017, and we are not in October, we are in April. Today is the 9th. Boom. Confirm. Date outside the timeline range. All that's going to do is expand it more to the right. So now, when we look, our timeline goes from 1860 all the way to 2017. So, like I said, it depends on what you're doing. Things could be decades, years, months, depends on the topic of study, centuries. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in two links here, two op-eds, one pro, one con, about the missile launch against Assad and the airbase. Right, there it is. Pro-bombing article. Right. I've got the date there, I've got the intro, and I've got the link, and I'm going to click save, and there you go. It's sorry, here we are, all the way right. And if you click on this, the more, it's going to bring you to that article, right? And so it's just a matter of cutting and pasting links until you populate your timeline with as much as you want, right? However you want it to look, depending on what your era is. And it's cool. I mean, I really like this. It could be links to articles, videos. You know, if you wanted to create little tutorials on YouTube or whatever other website, a blog that you created, you can link to that. And now, like I said, as we conclude this, the coolest part of this. So you have all your events, and now it's sequentially in, as we say here, 3D, right? You can see things are layered on each other. But let's kick it up a notch. And here we go. This is, like I said, this is where the oohs and ahs come from. So as we move that taskbar, that little frame here now, you're going to see us pass through eras. There's the 1900s, 1910, 20, and here we go. We can start to see things, you know, and again, you can interact with them the same way. Click to find out more, and it's going to bring you to that article that you uploaded. Right, so you can see things coming hot and heavy now. This is like the actual era of the Vietnam War, into, you know, Nixon's declaration that the war has ended till actually the last American troops have ended, which you could see is, you know, not immediate. You can see here, like I said, part of what I wanted to look at is how the media, how music, how popular culture was affected by the war. And then we keep going. And then, so it seems to be nothing's happening, but, so here now are my, what I want to end with my assessment. So this is, you know, the modern state of our war with Syria. So it's pretty cool. Definitely recommend it. And I hope that you got something out of this. Please leave questions in the comment area. Like again, this is assuming that you've already gotten through the tutorials into the actual screen, which at this point, you know, if you could upload a Facebook video, you could do that. So cheers, thanks for watching.